Jeremy Corbyn is to finally resign as Labour leader. We talk about how he betrayed ordinary British people, and we give you the latest update on the police state. Hello everyone and welcome to today's show. Jeremy Corbyn is finally going. It was about time. He's been leader for the past 5 years and he's done nothing but only to destroy the Labour Party, destroy the credibility of the opposition, and generally speaking, betraying ordinary people. And this the guy who spent all these years in politics pretending to care about the working class, he didn't do anything about that. And so today we're talking about his legacy, but his last act as Labour leader, he sent a letter to the Prime Minister. We're going to look at this letter because it's the most pointless letter I've ever seen, in a long time at least, in politics. And we'll give you his legacy and how his actions actually ended up helping us. But before we start the show, in today's quarantine stream, the quarantine live stream, at 7 o'clock, we have a special guest. We have James Delingpole, the host of the Delingpod podcast, with us. So we're going to talk about the authoritarianism, police state, what's happening right now with the lockdown, but also free speech and climate change. The Extinction Rebellion, watermelons. So make sure you tune in at 7 o'clock. It will be live, so you could actually ask questions from me or him. We'll be there. So now, let's talk about Jeremy's letter. Firstly, the letter that he sent to the Prime Minister. The couple of mistakes that we have. One is, it said, the Right Honourable Boris Johnson MP, Prime Minister. Let's just say it's a mistake. But it doesn't stop here. He's talking about 5 bullet points that he's complaining about, but you'll see that it's actually not 5, but yeah, we'll get to that. But number 1, he's talking about how full PPE now for health and social care workers, we need more of that. He's complaining that we lack and we need to basically get more resources. He's not really talking about how or from where we're going to be getting this personal protective equipment. There's absolutely no solution. It's just moaning and moaning and moaning. Second point, it says test. He's just repeating what the World Health Organization has been saying. Again, it's another point where he's just complaining about things without any solution. He says, at Prime Minister's questions on the 18th of March, you stated that we are increasing our tests from 5,000 a day to 10,000 a day. The latest published government figures show barely 8,000 tests being carried out. Now, while that's true, the tests are actually going up on a daily basis, and the government are already doing something about it. He's just complaining and just repeating what the WHO said. The third bullet point is about social care. He wants to expand it. He says, we, especially at this time, we need to expand it. Again, he says we have concerns about the resources available for social care and the provisions within the emergency legislation to reduce care standards. But yeah, again, where is the solution? He's just talking about something vague without realizing you can't just send a letter to the Prime Minister complaining without having, you as the opposition leader, what is your alternative solution? Bullet point 4, this is where it gets interesting. So he's talking about enforcing social distancing. This is the same guy who's been refusing to go home. He's been, even though he's over 70, the government said over 70, if you have to stay at home. But he's been on a daily basis going out, taking pictures, doing videos, and yeah, what happened to your social distancing, Jeremy? Now that was bullet point 4, but then the next bullet point is also 4. So we are now at 5, but it still says 4. Support for workers. Again, he's talking about some vague stuff about trade unions and workers being laid off without any evidence that there is something else that the government could do. Obviously, we know that the government are spending a lot of money on, especially on employees, and they are doing some stuff for the self-employed. A lot of them will be left out, obviously, but it's not a perfect situation. But the government have done something, to be fair, in their defense. And this guy is just talking about some vague stuff about the European states and other things. Absolutely pointless. Now we go to the bullet point 5, which is technically should be 6. I don't understand why these people not actually proofread before they send these letters to Downing Street. He's talking about leading a global response. He wants the UK to lead the response, especially when it comes to finding a cure and everything. Has he not received the memo that the UK is already leading the global movement when it comes to this issue? And we are part of one of the main countries that are trying to find a cure alongside obviously Germany, America, Israel. I don't understand why he has to say things that make absolutely no sense. Yeah, so this was his last act as leader. Nothing happened. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. This is a guy that his issue with Israel as a country goes beyond criticizing the Israeli government. We all have in the past. You feel free to criticize the Israeli government on their actions, generally speaking, like any other government. But he once said that the BBC are biased towards saying and thinking that Israel is a democracy and have a right to exist.
There is pressure on the BBC from probably Mark Thompson, who seems to me to have an agenda in this respect. There seems to be a great deal of pressure on the BBC from the Israeli government and the Israeli embassy, and they are very assertive towards all journalists and the BBC itself. They challenge every single thing on reporting the whole time. I think there is a bias towards saying that Israel is a democracy in the Middle East. Israel has a right to exist. Israel has its security concerns.
I mean, are you kidding me? Again, you could criticize the government, but it is a democracy, whether you like it or not. But his incompetence is also when it comes to his leadership. Now, his legacy is pointless, but his leadership and his management style was absolutely chaotic. We have some examples. For example, when he first became leader, and he didn't even know how to read from an autocue.
And, strong message here, not cutting student numbers, giving young people real hope and real opportunity. Strong message here, strong message here.
The second example is when he was debating with Owen Smith and his cringy jokes.
Problems.
Our message to the rest of the world is that the lights have gone out.
Plunged into darkness.
And are we going to continue? Should we continue in the dark or what?
Third example, when the press came to one of the Labour meetings and even though he agreed to it, he realised that was probably a bad idea. So he told his advisor, is this a really good idea?
Okay.
And finally, this one, I just have no words for this one. But these are the jokey moments. When it comes to his integrity and being honest with people. Well, he was never honest. He always pretended to be straightforward and straight talking. But in reality, even his policies, he had all the good intentions. We're going to help everybody, free money and all this. But he had no idea about any of his plans.
How much will it cost to provide unmeans-tested childcare for 1.3 million children?
It will cost... It will obviously cost a lot to do so. We accept that.
I presume you have the figures.
Yes, I do.
But it quickly became apparent that he didn't.
So how much will it cost?
I'll give you the figure in a moment.
You don't know it? You're logging into your iPad here. You've announced a major policy and you don't know how much it will cost?
But what about his actual legacy? Because the man who betrayed Brexiteers and ordinary people in this country for years and years, he pretended to be anti-EU, yet he joined the Remain side and didn't do anything. He actually tried to block Brexit. And but his actions at the end, resulted in having a massive Tory majority and Brexit. So maybe that was his plan all along. So I want to say massive thank you to Jeremy Corbyn. Agent Corbyn, you can stand down now. Your job is completed. But the Labour Party are already in trouble. The division is continuing with the leadership election and the deputy leadership election. Momentum initially backed Angela Rayner, and now they've changed their mind. Yeah, so Momentum have now withdrawn support for Angela Rayner as deputy leader. They're already backing Rebecca Long-Bailey for leader. And so this is a situation where they've emailed their supporters to remind them that voting in the Labour leadership elections finally closed on Saturday. And even though back in January they decided to back Long-Bailey and Angela Rayner, and they forced their members to pick between those two, now they've made a U-turn because they realise Angela Rayner is terrible. Now, in today's updates when it comes to the police state, things are going quite crazy. There was a guy who they had 5 police officers knocking on his door during this lockdown when the police should have better things to do. The problem was he was apparently filming a traffic warden in an argument, and we thought we had civil liberties in this country, but apparently not. You're not allowed to film police officers or traffic wardens. So they tried to take him to the station, and he was refusing to go.
What then? Right, what do you want to say to it?
So, as my colleague said, it's a public order complaint. Somebody has made a complaint that you've acted in a manner causing them harm, alarm and distress.
Alarm and distress in what way?
So that would be part of the allegation that you get to hear.
Yeah.
As my colleague's asked, I'm inviting you to attend an interview at Winton Police Station on Friday so we can investigate.
I'm happy to give you a statement. I'm not going to go for an interview.
Okay. Well, it would be an interview. It would be a recorded interview under the Police and Criminal Evidence Act.
I'm not really happy to come to the station for that. It's ridiculous because all I haven't actually done. If they've got some proof against me and they can show you any evidence I've done anything wrong, then I'll come to the station. Otherwise, I'm not going to bother.
We have got evidence from them. We've got statements and videos.
Videos. What am I doing in them videos?
Because that's something that you'll have the opportunity to see.
I've got the videos too, haven't I? Them putting tickets on all innocent people's cars when everyone's in quarantine with their kids and you can't leave your houses.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so there's the opportunity for you to see that evidence when you come for your interview. So the only other option, as my colleague was surely about to explain, is that if you don't come for an interview, we need to conduct the investigation. We can arrest you on suspicion of a public order offence and then take you to the interview.
Cool.
We don't
when are you going to do that?
Sorry?
When are you going to do that?
Well, I'm going to tell you when I'm going to come and arrest you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't intend to arrest you at the moment. No one here does. We want you to give you the opportunity.
I'm just a bit worried why there's 5 police officers at my door when everyone's in quarantine for me recording a traffic warden. Have you not got more stuff you need to prioritise other than this?
Seriously, is this the priority for the police right now, to go around and tell people off for stupid things? Are you kidding me with this? But we are going to be talking about all this with James Dellimpole at 7 o'clock, if you're watching this now, on our quarantine stream. It's live stream that we're doing during the quarantine time. And so make sure you tune in at 7 o'clock. If you want to support this channel, we're all doing all this thanks to our members. If you want to join as a member, you get more out of it from this channel. Check out the link in the description, or you can find the join button next to subscribe, or just go on your browser, type in youtube.com/myotc/join. And if you're new to the channel, you enjoy the content, then make sure you actually subscribe and click on that bell next to it so you get notified. We have a daily show at 5:45 p.m. on MyOTC. I'll see you guys later on the live stream.